The Grand Council chamber fell into a deafening silence as Supreme Commander Kraxos slammed his metallic fist against the quantum glass table. Thousands of crystalline shards danced through the air before the table's auto-repair systems kicked in, much like the Zar'kanian Empire trying desperately to piece itself back together. "Explain to me," Kraxos growled, his voice echoing through the vast chamber, each word dripping with barely contained fury, how a species that hasn't even mastered basic quantum tunneling has managed to decimate our forces across their entire planet. The gathered council members, representatives from the 100 most powerful star systems in the Zar'kanian Empire, shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Their normally pristine military uniforms, adorned with medals from countless successful conquests, suddenly felt heavy with shame. High General Vex Thor cleared his throat, his purple-scaled skin reflecting the harsh light of the chamber's 7 artificial suns. "Supreme Commander, the humans, they don't fight like any species we've encountered in our 10,000 years of galactic conquest." "That's because they don't fight at all," Admiral Yara Zen spat from her hovering command chair. "They hide, like vermin. They strike from shadows and disappear before our sensors can lock onto them. They turned our own orbital bombardment platforms against us, platforms that have broken the will of 1,000 civilizations." Kraxos turned to face the massive holographic display dominating the chamber's central space. It showed Earth, that insignificant blue marble that had somehow become the Empire's greatest nightmare. Red dots flickered across its surface, each representing another lost battalion, another failed offensive, another humiliation for the mighty Zar'kanian war machine. 10,000 years, Kraxos spoke, his voice now unsettlingly calm. 10,000 years we've conquered every species we've encountered. From the crystalline beings of the Andromeda Arm to the energy entities of the Crab Nebula. Our tactics were perfect, our technology unmatched, our victory always assured. He paused, watching as another red dot appeared on the hologram, another defeat. And now? Now we're being outmaneuvered by beings who still use combustion engines and projectile weapons. The War Minister, Drax Blackclaw, rose from his seat, his cybernetic eye whirring as it focused on the hologram. "Perhaps we underestimated them, Supreme Commander. When our initial scans showed no unified planetary government, no significant space presence, and primitive energy manipulation capabilities, we followed standard invasion protocol." "Standard protocol," Kraxos laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Tell me, War Minister, in which protocol manual does it outline what to do when an entire planet's population simply vanishes? When our dropships find empty cities? When our ground forces are picked apart by enemies they never see? When our command centers are infiltrated by shadows?" No one answered. No one could. The mighty Zar'kanian Empire, with its planet-crushing warships and dimension-splitting weapons, was being brought to its knees by a species that hadn't even reached the stars. The humans weren't fighting a war, they were hunting the hunters, and doing it with a frightening efficiency that made even the most hardened Zar'kanian warriors question everything they knew about combat. As if to punctuate this point, another red dot appeared on the hologram, followed by another, and another. Each one a testament to humanity's unconventional genius, each one a nail in the Empire's coffin of hubris. Scout Report 7249b, Standard Galactic Date 3476.2. War Minister Drax Blackclaw's voice played through the historical archive recording. "Primitive world detected in Spiral Arm 3, Solar System Designation Sol 3. Species shows minimal technological advancement, recommended for immediate integration into the Empire." The recording shifted, showing the first Zar'kanian scout ship dropping out of hyperspace near Jupiter's orbit. Captain Nick Stormweaver stood at the bridge, her silver-plated armor gleaming under the starship's lights. "These humans," she said, studying the sensor readings, "they still fight among themselves. Multiple nation-states, no unified government, primitive nuclear weapons, laughable space presence." She turned to her crew, mandibles clicking in amusement. Standard conquest protocol should suffice. How wrong they had been. The initial invasion force consisted of 300,000 troops, a mere fraction of the Empire's might. After all, why waste resources on such an obviously inferior species? The Zar'kanians had categorized Earth as a Class 4 civilization barely worth noting in their vast database of conquered worlds. Fleet Commander Raxus Void-Born led the first wave personally, confident in their overwhelming superiority. "Begin the standard protocol," he ordered from his command ship hovering above Earth's atmosphere. targeting their largest military installations. Deployment in 3-2-1. The massive dropships descended through Earth's atmosphere like metallic thunderclouds, their stealth fields making them invisible to human radar. They approached their targets with practiced precision: military bases, government facilities, power plants. Everything followed the Empire's tried and true invasion playbook. But then something unprecedented happened. Sir Lieutenant Kraz screamed over the command channel. "Dropship Omega-7 is gone." "What do you mean?" "Gone," Raxus demanded. "It just vanished." One moment it was there. The next, the lieutenant's voice crackled with static. "Wait, we're detecting primitive projectile weapons, but they're carrying something else. Some kind of..." The transmission cut off as another dropship disappeared from their sensors. "Impossible," Raxus muttered, watching as his invasion force encountered resistance unlike anything in their historical records. The humans weren't supposed to be able to detect their ships, let alone damage them. Reports flooded in from all sectors. Dropships finding their designated targets completely abandoned. Ground forces discovering elaborate traps in empty buildings. Entire battalions of Zar'kanian warriors, the most feared soldiers in 3 galaxies, being picked off by unseen enemies using surprisingly effective primitive weapons. "They knew we were coming," General Vex Thor realized too late. Somehow they knew. The humans had turned their own primitive technology into an advantage. Their projectile weapons, considered laughably obsolete by Zar'kanian standards, proved devastatingly effective against shields designed to stop energy weapons. Their simple radio communications couldn't be intercepted by quantum decoders. Their primitive radar systems had been modified in ways the Empire's advanced technology couldn't comprehend. By the end of the first day, 30% of the invasion force was either destroyed or missing. The remaining forces found themselves fighting shadows, chasing ghosts through empty cities and hostile terrain. Every attempt to establish a foothold was met with swift, brutal resistance from an enemy that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once. The mighty Zar'kanian Empire had just learned its first lesson about humans never confuse technological advancement with combat effectiveness. It would not be the last lesson Earth would teach them. High General Vex Thor stared at the battlefield recordings with growing unease. The human commander, this Maya Rodriguez, had turned the urban sprawl of what they called Mexico City into a deadly maze. His forces had walked right into it, just like they had every other trap she'd laid. "Play it again," he commanded, mandibles twitching with frustration. The holographic display flickered to life, showing his elite shock troops advancing through the seemingly deserted city. Everything appeared normal until the ground beneath their feet suddenly transformed into quicksand, some primitive but effective combination of local materials and simple machines. As his troops struggled, attacks came from all directions. Humans emerged from hidden tunnels, struck with devastating precision, and vanished again before his forces could respond. "These resistance cells," Vex Thor muttered, "they're everywhere and nowhere." A subordinate officer approached, clutching a data pad. "Sir, we've intercepted more of their communications. They're broadcasting stories." "Stories?" Yes, sir. Tales of our defeats. Embellished accounts of human victories. They're transmitting them on all frequencies, in every language. Our troops, they're starting to hesitate before following orders." Vex Thor slammed his fist against the command console. The mighty Zar'kanian Empire, reduced to being frightened by human ghost stories. But he couldn't deny their effectiveness. Every day, more reports came in of entire squadrons refusing to enter certain areas, convinced they were haunted by human warriors who could turn invisible at will. The display shifted to another recording, this one from the North American continent. General Thompson's notorious Operation Ghost was in full swing. The humans had somehow managed to hack into the Zar'kanian battle network, flooding it with false sensor readings and phantom troops that disappeared as soon as they were engaged. "Sir," a communications officer burst into the command center. "We've lost contact with forward base Alpha. All we received was this audio transmission." The sound that filled the room sent chills down Vex Thor's spine. Thousands of human voices, chanting in unison, growing louder and louder until they drowned out everything else. When the transmission cut off, the base had simply vanished. No signs of battle, no distress signals, nothing. Commander Rodriguez's tactics had spread globally. In the Asian sectors, resistance cells were using the dense urban environments to stage lightning-fast attacks. European forces reported humans appearing from underground bunker networks that hadn't shown up on any scans. African units found themselves lost in vast savannas where every rock and tree seemed to hide a deadly ambush. But it was General Thompson's psychological warfare that truly broke them. His Operation Ghost didn't just target their military capabilities, it attacked their morale, their confidence, their very sense of reality. Zar'kanian warriors, proud and undefeated for 10 millennia, began jumping at shadows. Every human child's laughter echoing through abandoned streets became a potential threat. Every quiet moment felt like the calm before another devastating storm. "They're not just fighting us," Vexthor realized, watching another recording of his troops fleeing from what appeared to be a simple human child drawing with chalk on a wall. "They're hunting us, teaching us what it feels like to be prey." The resistance cells coordinated with impossible precision despite using primitive communication methods. They struck simultaneously across continents, yet no transmission could be traced, no pattern predicted. The humans had turned their technological inferiority into an advantage, using methods so old they bypassed all of the Empire's advanced surveillance systems. A new report flashed across his screen. Another base had gone dark, this time with a different message left behind: "Welcome to Earth. You don't know where we are, but we know where you are. Sleep tight." Vexthor felt something he hadn't experienced in his 300 years of military service: fear. Not of the humans' weapons or their tactics, but of their unpredictability. Every victory against them felt hollow, every defeat burned deeper than the last. They weren't fighting a war against a primitive species anymore, they were trapped in a planet-wide hunting ground, and the humans were the apex predators. "Send word to Supreme Command," he ordered, his voice heavy with resignation. "The humans. They haven't just adapted to our invasion. They've turned it into their game, and we're playing by their rules now." Admiral Yara Zen watched in mounting frustration as another Zar'kanian destroyer disappeared beneath Earth's waves. The human, Admiral Nina Petrova, had turned the planet's oceans into a deadly trap. Their mighty warships, designed for the void of space, were being outsmarted by primitive submarines and underwater guerrilla tactics. 14 ships in 3 days, she hissed through clenched mandibles. How? How are they doing this? The answer came from her tactical officer, who displayed a hologram of Earth's oceanic trenches. "They're using the planet's natural features against us, Admiral. These humans. They've mapped every underwater canyon, every thermal vent. They're leading our ships into killing zones we never see coming." Petrova's latest strategy had been devastating. She'd stationed small fishing boats across the Pacific, each one appearing harmless to Zar'kanian scanners. But when their warships moved to eliminate these seemingly easy targets, they found themselves pulled into elaborate traps. Depth charges from the 20th century, technology so old it barely registered on their sensors, proved catastrophically effective against their advanced shields. Meanwhile, on land, the situation was equally dire. Lieutenant James Martinez, nicknamed Shadow by terrified Zar'kanian troops, had transformed the Amazon rainforest into an impenetrable fortress. His stealth teams moved through the dense vegetation like ghosts, using the canopy to mask their heat signatures and the natural sounds of the jungle to cover their movements. A report from Southern Command, a communications officer announced. "Another forward base has gone silent. They only transmitted one word: shadow." Martinez's reputation had grown to almost mythical proportions among the Zar'kanian forces. Stories spread of entire platoons disappearing without a trace, only to be found days later bound and unconscious, their weapons replaced with wooden replicas. The psychological impact was devastating. Every rustle of leaves, every snapped twig became a potential attack. But the true masterstroke of humanity's resistance revealed itself when the Zar'kanians finally discovered the underground bunker network. What they initially believed to be a simple hidden base turned out to be part of a vast, global network of interconnected facilities. These tunnels, War Minister Drax Blackclaw observed, studying the scans with growing alarm, they're everywhere. Under cities, mountains, oceans. Some appear decades old, others freshly dug. They've been preparing for something like this for generations. The bunker network allowed human forces to appear and disappear at will, moving unseen beneath the Zar'kanians' feet. What seemed like scattered, disorganized resistance cells were actually part of a coordinated global defense system. The humans had turned their entire planet into a three-dimensional battlefield, using every layer from the ocean depths to the mountain peaks. In the Asian theater, Martinez's tactics had been adapted by local resistance forces. Zar'kanian patrols in the Himalayas found themselves ambushed by fighters who seemed to materialize from the snow itself. In the Australian outback, human warriors used the harsh terrain and wildlife to their advantage, leading pursuit forces into areas where even the most advanced survival gear proved useless. Admiral Nina Petrova received another urgent transmission: 3 more ships lost in the Atlantic. Petrova had somehow managed to hack their navigation systems, using the humans' own satellite network to feed false data to Zar'kanian vessels. The ships, thinking they were in deep water, ran aground on hidden reefs and sandbars. They're not just fighting a guerrilla war, Nina realized, watching as yet another destroyer fell victim to Petrova's tactics. They're conducting a master class in asymmetric warfare, teaching us lessons written in the blood of our finest warriors. Notice Vex Thor commented dryly, how it simply decides that venom is optional. The humans had taken everything the Zar'kanians thought they knew about warfare and turned it upside down. Their primitive weapons, deployed with cunning and precision, proved more effective than plasma cannons. Their ancient tactics, refined over centuries of fighting among themselves, had rendered the Empire's advanced battle algorithms useless. Earth wasn't just resisting, it was becoming the graveyard of the Empire's military might, one carefully planned ambush at a time. Supreme Commander Kraxos stood before the emergency session of the High Command, his once pristine armor now bearing the scars of countless failed operations. The massive strategic display behind him showed a sea of red indicators, each representing another defeat at human hands. "Our attempts to adapt have failed," he announced, his voice carrying the weight of unprecedented failure. "Every tactic we copy, they counter. Every strategy we develop, they turn against us. It's as if they're playing a game several moves ahead." The latest disaster had come from Colonel Alexandra Kingston's cyber warfare division. The Zar'kanians had dismissed Earth's digital infrastructure as primitive, right until Kingston's team hijacked their quantum communication networks using code so basic it bypassed all their advanced security protocols. They used something called ASIART, reported Chief Technology Officer Zek's quantum mind, his cybernetic implants flickering with distress. Simple text characters arranged to form images. They flooded our networks with thousands of these crude drawings, laughing human faces, taunting messages. Our AI systems crashed trying to decode what they thought were complex encryption patterns. The High Command watched in stunned silence as their latest battle footage played out. A Zar'kanian mechanized division, equipped with their most advanced walker units, reduced to scrap metal by humans using simple electromagnetic pulses generated from salvaged microwave ovens and modified power lines. "We lost 67 walkers in that attack," General Vex Thor reported, his scales pale with shame. "The humans didn't just destroy them, they captured the wreckage. Now they're sending us videos of their children using our walker heads as soccer balls." Another officer stepped forward, clutching a data pad like a lifeline. "Our psychological warfare units are in shambles. We tried using our fear-inducement rays technology that broke the will of the mighty Centaurian Empire." The humans, he paused, mandibles clicking nervously. They threw parties in the affected areas, called them raves, started dancing to the frequency of our weapons. The reports continued, each more demoralizing than the last. Attempts to use chemical warfare were thwarted by humans wearing simple filtration masks and hazmat suits, technology centuries behind Zar'kanian protective gear, but perfectly adequate for the task. Stealth units found themselves tracked by humans using basic thermal imaging and pattern recognition. "The worst part," Kraxos growled, "is their laughter. Every defeat, every retreat, every failed operation is met with human laughter. They're not just beating us, they're mocking us." A new alert flashed across the strategic display. Colonel Kingston's team had struck again, this time broadcasting an endless loop of something called "Never Gonna Give You Up" through the Empire's supposedly unhackable quantum communications network. 10,000 years of technological advancement, Kraxos breathed, watching as another sector went dark on the display. The most powerful military force in known space. And we're being defeated by a species that thinks launching metal projectiles with controlled explosions is cutting-edge technology. The final insult came in the form of a message, transmitted simultaneously to every Zar'kanian command center on Earth. It was a simple text file, containing only 2 lines. Thanks for the tech upgrade. You can surrender anytime. Sir, we found tardigrades. The mighty Zar'kanian Empire, with all its superior technology and advanced warfare capabilities, found itself facing an uncomfortable truth. Sometimes the simplest solutions were the most effective. And humanity had mastered the art of simple solutions through millennia of fighting among themselves. War Minister Drax Blackclaw's holographic form flickered as he delivered his report to the High Command, his transmission constantly interrupted by human interference. Our supply lines are in chaos. This human, Major Anderson, he's not just disrupting our logistics, he's stealing our equipment. The color drained from Vex Thor's scales as Lumi brought up the microscopic footage. The Council watched in horror as the tiny creatures survived conditions that would kill any other known life form. The evidence was damning. Footage showed human strike teams using the Empire's own gravity lifts to spirit away entire supply depots. Quantum encrypted supply manifests were being decrypted with what appeared to be handheld calculators. The humans had turned the Empire's complex supply chain into their personal shopping mall. They hit 3 quantum fuel repositories yesterday, Blackclaw continued, his image destabilizing further. Used our own teleporters against us. Do you know what they left behind? Bananas. Actual yellow fruits with notes saying slipped up, didn't you? High General Vex Thor watched as another sector went dark on his tactical display. Major Anderson's hit-and-run tactics had evolved beyond mere harassment. His forces would appear out of nowhere, strike with surgical precision, and vanish with crucial supplies before the Zar'kanians could mount an effective response. Sir, a junior officer interrupted, panic evident in his voice. The humans have started transmitting something across all our frequencies. They're calling it a playlist. Suddenly, ancient human war songs began blaring through every communication channel. Another one bites the dust echoed through command centers as more supply lines were severed. Highway to hell accompanied reports of failed counterattacks. They're toying with us, Vex Thor snarled, smashing his command console. Our forces are scattered across this cursed planet, running low on supplies, and these humans are turning it into some kind of entertainment. The situation had become critical. Isolated Zar'kanian units, cut off from resupply and central command, began making their own decisions, usually disastrous ones. Some tried to surrender to empty buildings, convinced the humans were hiding inside. Others reported seeing Major Anderson simultaneously in multiple locations, leading to widespread paranoia. Update from Sector 7, a communications officer announced. Our forces there have barricaded themselves inside their own ships. They're claiming the local wildlife is working for Anderson. Something about squirrels acting suspicious. The breaking point came when Anderson's forces executed their masterpiece. They didn't just raid a primary supply depot, they reprogrammed its entire automated defense system using what appeared to be a modified game console. This is Commander Raxus, a desperate transmission cut through the chaos. We're under attack from our own defense turrets. They're playing something called Space Invaders with our ships. The turrets are actually making those old arcade game sounds while shooting at us. Blackclaw's hologram stabilized long enough to show his expression of utter defeat. It gets worse. The humans have started leaving supply caches for our stranded units, but they're filled with their primitive military rations, something called MRAs. Our troops are actually surrendering just to avoid eating them. The Empire's mighty army had been reduced to scattered pockets of increasingly paranoid soldiers, jumping at shadows and seeing Phantom Anderson around every corner. Their advanced communications network, compromised by human interference, had devolved into a mess of confusion and contradictory orders. Latest intelligence suggests the humans are taking bets on which of our units will surrender next, an analyst reported. They've set up something called a bracket system. They're treating this like a sporting event. As if to prove this point, a new transmission breached their security and Earth sports announcer's voice boomed through the command center. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the main event. In the red corner, weighing in with 10,000 years of undefeated conquest, the increasingly nervous Zar'kanian Empire. And in the blue corner, armed with duct tape, stolen alien tech, and absolutely no respect for advanced warfare doctrine, humanity. The sound of human cheering that followed would haunt the High Command's nightmares for generations to come. Supreme Commander Kraxos stood aboard his flagship, the last vestige of Zar'kanian military might in Earth's orbit. Their final push had been announced with all the grandeur befitting an empire of their status. The response from Earth came in the form of a text message: "Nucom, Udias. Deploy all remaining forces," Kraxos commanded, trying to ignore the human memes now decorating his tactical displays. "We end this today." The Zar'kanians' last desperate assault was met with something unprecedented: a completely coordinated global defense. Every human tactic that had tormented them over the months came together in a symphony of chaos. Commander Rodriguez's urban warfare specialists emerged from seeming thin air. Admiral Petrova's naval forces struck from the depths. Colonel Kingston's cyber warriors turned the Empire's own systems against them. Major Anderson's phantom squads appeared and disappeared at will, each strike precisely timed with the others. "Sir," a panicked officer called out. "The humans have synchronized their attacks with something called a flash mob dance routine. Our troops are becoming mesmerized by the choreography." Kraxos watched in horror as his final assault crumbled. Human resistance cells moved with impossible coordination, despite using communication technology that should have been obsolete centuries ago. They had somehow turned the Empire's attempt at a glorious last stand into a spectacular demonstration of their own superiority in asymmetric warfare. "They're messaging us again," Supreme Commander, his communications officer, reported, trying to maintain his professional demeanor. "They say GGEs, we're still trying to decode what that means." The end came not with a bang, but with a synchronized global rickroll. Every Zar'kanian command frequency, every battlefield communication channel, every emergency bandwidth erupted with that dreaded melody. Even their quantum-encrypted channels weren't spared. The laboratory erupted into pandemonium. A group of senior researchers began arguing about redefining the laws of biology. Two doctoral candidates started stress molting. Someone in the corner began writing their last will and testament. "This is High Command," Kraxos finally transmitted, his voice heavy with defeat. All forces withdraw from Earth space." He paused, mandibles clicking in resignation. "And someone please make that music stop." "Wait," Vex Thor shouted above the chaos. "You don't understand the true horror yet. These aren't even considered dangerous by Earth standards. Humans study them for fun. They make stuffed toys of them for their children." The human response was immediate: "New galaxy, who DEs?" As the mighty Zar'kanian armada retreated from Earth's orbit, they received one final transmission. It was a compilation video of their greatest defeats, set to something humans called Yaki Sax, along with an invitation to join the Galactic Community Gaming Discord server. In the aftermath, as the Galactic Council convened to recognize Earth as an emerging power, War Minister Drax Blackclaw submitted his final report: "In 10,000 years of conquest, we never encountered a species that turned warfare into performance art. The humans didn't just defeat us. They made us part of their entertainment." Supreme Commander Kraxos added a personal note to the official surrender document: "To any future civilizations considering the invasion of Earth, don't. Just don't. They'll beat you with primitive technology, record it, turn it into memes, and make you watch compilations of your own defeat set to strange music. They don't just break armies, they break spirits with weaponized comedy." Earth's emergence as a galactic power was marked not by the traditional ceremonies, but by humans sending gift baskets to every major alien civilization. Each contained a thumb drive of their greatest hits against the Zar'kanian Empire, a copy of The Art of War, and a note reading, "Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe." The mighty Zar'kanian Empire had finally met its match, not in advanced technology or superior numbers, but in humanity's unique ability to turn absolute chaos into an art form. "We are here," she announced, "to make an unprecedented classification decision regarding the planet designated as Earth. Commander Brightscale, your final testimony, please." Vex Thor approached the podium, his scales now permanently stuck in a mottled pattern of terror gray and hysteria purple. Behind him, Lumi Sparkweave prepared what everyone present desperately hoped would be the last presentation about Earth's wildlife. Nova Prismheart, still sporting bandages from the box jellyfish incident, stepped forward with the final data analysis. "According to our calculations, any species that could evolve to consider Earth's wildlife as normal would have to be